Hello, everybody. I'm Jake.
I'm Hannah. Hello.
We're so excited. Oh, we're so excited. You excited?
No.
You look excited.
I'm not.
You look titillated.
No.
You look lubricated for? I don't know. Anyway, so this is systemic racism. Everyone's favorite topic when Dave Rubin writes about it. When you know, if there's one thing you want to go to Dave Rubin for, it's how are the black people doing, Dave? Dave Rubin's got his finger on the pulse of black America.
This chapter's a lot shorter than the last one, so this episode might be shorter, but that's fine.
Is it going
Our
to
suffering will be brief.
Is it? Is it brief? Feels like a long time. So, if you missed the last one, it sort of leads into this, so it might behoove you to go check out that last video, which is a little bit longer. It's about Dave Rubin's interview with a black gentleman, Larry Elder, who is a conservative dum-dum, who doesn't think systemic racism exists, and then he just blew Dave's mind by saying words really quickly in succession, and Dave didn't know the answers to any questions, and therefore Larry Elder must be right because Dave didn't know. So then we lead into this. Dave was inspired to write Systemic Racism. Boy, he doesn't understand systemic racism at all. And you can tell because he writes that we're less racist than ever before, which is not the goal. Being less racist is not the goal. Being not racist is the goal. So
he also kind of misses the point that systemic racism doesn't necessitate individuals behaving in a racist way within the system.
Right. And
I'm sure you're going to talk about like redlining or like the fact that school districts are funded via property taxes.
Talk about all of that stuff.
These are systems that were set up potentially. I don't know the person that decided property taxes should fund schools. Maybe it was an intentional racist thing. Maybe it wasn't. But the fact is, it disproportionately disadvantages certain communities. Therefore, it's racist because it hurts them. And now that we recognize that, you're not doing anything about it. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself on this. Either way. What's that face?
It just seems like it's always kind of been a thing. Public school funding in the United States has been a thing. It's just been a thing.
Okay, so basically forever. Right.
Yeah.
So someone didn't come up with the system and think to themselves, hey, we're going to disadvantage black people, so we're going to base this on property taxes. But as a result of what happened after slavery, there was segregation, and communities basically became segregated based upon race. And before the Civil Rights Act, you talked about this in the last episode. The first generation of homeowners, black homeowners who paid off their mortgage in the 1990s, right?
Late 90s.
So the black community is going to have lower property values relative to communities that are mostly white. And even though
due to nothing that they did themselves, only being members of a system that they weren't allowed to get home loans, non-predatory home loans in before.
So that system disproportionately hurts black Americans. Therefore, now that we recognize that, and if you allow that to perpetuate, that's a bad thing. You're hurting communities of people of a specific race, knowing that it does so and knowing the effect it has.
Right.
That's systematic racism.
And by the way, he's going to say something Dave Rubin, if you asked him, is segregation still a thing? He'd be like, no, of course not. Which his own statistics run against later, which is fucking hilarious. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But so he starts this out with a survey. This is called the General Social Survey, run by the University of Chicago's National Opinion Research Center. And it says GSS, General Social Survey, reportedly quizzed a vast sample of people with the same question from 1972 onward and found a steady move toward tolerance. Initially, 15% of white respondents thought, quote, black and white children should go to separate public schools, which, by the way, in 1972, when was Brown v. Board of Education? I mean, you're not much, is that one generation? Brown v. Board of Education? 54, so pretty close to a generation.
Okay.
Pretty close to about 20 years. It's roughly a generation. So in one generation, that got to 15 in the country. That figure dropped to 10% in the early 80s and became a negligible amount by 85, so much so that GSS stopped asking the question?
I find that questionable, and it makes me wonder the legitimacy of the survey. Like, you don't necessarily, if you're trying to track trends over time, if a bunch of people say no to a question, you don't just remove the question. You keep it as to, like, maintain, like, oh, it's very low, it's negligible. Okay, what if that number started going back up?
Oh, yeah.
Or what if you should still track? What if the fact that that question was on the survey in the first place was affecting the way people perceived the other questions on the survey, therefore changing how they're going to?
Of course.
Like, you can't do comparative studies of things and change the question like that.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
Also, I guarantee that spiked after Donald Trump got voted in. I guarantee that did. Whether it was a percent point or whatever, it would be a relative spike from 85 onward until that point. I bet it happened. I put good money on that. This is interesting to me that he thinks this is a good thing. Similarly, 65% of white people opposed interracial marriage in 1990, but that dropped to 25% by 2008. So in 2008, 1 out of 4 white people thought interracial marriage was bad?
But Jake,
that's not a good statistic.
There's less racism, therefore there's no racism.
Less... How do we quantify racism? Is it individual racist acts? I think that's how Dave does it, right? But then he would say the same thing. Like, does he think the Proud Boys are racist? Like,
I'd imagine he's probably defended them in the past. I wonder how he feels now that they did the thing where they're like, you saw the thing they did recently, right?
Where they split off to a more extreme branch. That? Yeah. Right. So I'm wondering, what is racist in Dave Rubin's opinion? Like, what is a racist act? Do you have to say the N-word? Do you have to be a member of the KKK? Can you dog whistle racism? Or racist jokes racist? What if you just, like, I'm assuming he thinks, like, cultural appropriation doesn't have some form of racism in it, depending on what the cultural thing is. What about, like microaggressive things? Like, does he think that's racist? Like touching, like white women randomly touching a black woman's hair, which happens, and that's racist because it's, you know, the hair is different. Like what's racist in Dave's opinion? That'd be very interesting to know. But I don't think we're going to get a good answer from that. We very quickly descend into violence as far as the statistics. That's usually what happens in black communities. And the fact that when you talk about racism, the first thing that comes to mind is black violent statistics is in itself a racist thing. Like, yeah. And I know Dave Rubin would roll his eyes at that. But if just by a quick word association, if I say white and you say blue collar worker and I say black and you say black on black crime, you're a racist. No. And it's not like a capital R Grand Wizard of the KKK racist, but that's not the kind of racism we're necessarily dealing with on a day-to-day basis. The kind of racism we deal with on a day-to-day basis is the stuff that black people tell you they deal with, and you pretend not to listen, or you just explicitly don't listen. I don't know. It's stuff like this, where someone goes, black people, and you go, fried chicken and watermelon, rap music, hippity hop. Like, bro, there's more to being black than your caricature of blackness, and he doesn't seem to understand that whatsoever. He likes to make caricatures of black people. So again, black people are 23.5% less likely to be shot by police relative to whites.
That is
such a bad statistic.
No, it's not. According to ex-Harvard scholar Roland Fryer, a black dude, I might add. The right hates identity politics unless it's someone who agrees with them. He investigated racial profiling in his study, an empirical analysis of racial differences in police use of force, published July 2017. So I looked this up. What do you know? It's questionable. So first of all, hey Jake, pull up we did this in the last episode, but bring up those FBI statistics.
Hey Scotty, statistics, man.
Yeah.
There
okay.
Goes.
So the actual statistics show that no, actually, black people in police custody are much more likely to be killed than white people in police custody, whether it's through gun or some other use of force. George Floyd, for instance, that didn't involve a gun, but he died nonetheless. Okay, so the study that's cited here, questionable as fuck. It wasn't some sort of meta-analysis of all sorts of studies. It wasn't a study on a national level. It was a study of specific police departments. 3 of them, I believe, in Texas. There was Austin, Houston, and another city, and then Orlando. And then the rest of the study was padded out with rural communities. Jake, why do you think a study that uses a few cities and then rural communities, why do you think that study is going to show more white people getting shot or killed?
Could there be more white people in the sample?
What? That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh, it is shot by police too. It's specifically gun. And if you look at the statistics that were on the chart that Jake pulled up that I provided.
There it is again.
It's actually interesting when you look at that, because when you look at statistics of shot by police as opposed to like killed through use of force other than shot, other than using gun violence, the number's actually higher. Black people are more likely to be killed by the police when it's like something like George Floyd, where they're using a hold or kneeling on their neck or something, they are to be shot. So if you're specifically looking at statistics about police shootings, it's entirely possible, not always, but it's possible that you're doing so intentionally to obfuscate the fact that a lot of the time it's not a gunshot that kills the person. Right. It's other use of force. Yeah. So that whole thing's bullshit.
Anything else?
No, not on that.
Oh, good. A year earlier, Washington State University paper, The Reverse Racism Effect, found police were 3 times less likely to shoot unarmed black suspects than unarmed white suspects. That is not per capita.
No.
That is just in general. But there's only 13% of a population. Wait a second. That's
13 times 3.
That doesn't boil down to that
39.
Number. It seems as though still there's a disproportionate amount of fucking guns shot at black citizens. Amazing. Just crazy. I mean, this is pretty much what it is. Again, he just continues. In 2001, another study from the Washington Post found that police officers were more likely to be killed by black people than vice versa. I wonder why that is. Okay. So where do you think the communities are that police officers do things at?
Urban black communities.
And why are they targeted at urban black communities?
Because they believe there's more crime, because they police those areas more heavily, so they catch more stuff.
So there's more crime because they police it more.
Yeah. Also, poverty's high in urban communities.
Wait, why is poverty high in urban communities?
Oh, God. That's a long thing, but at least in part due to the fact, and Dave Rubin brought this up in the previous chapter, there's a higher likelihood of single-parent households in part due to the war on drugs.
And then if there's low income amounts and you're already targeting these people, what's a good response to poverty to try to make money?
Crime.
Oh, God, it's a cycle! Oh, no, we just figured out the system. It's self-perpetuating. Anyway, so, yeah, if you're interacting with a certain demographic group the most by a lot, it makes sense that black people kill more cops than any other group, because that's who is there to do that. It's not because black people are like, I'm going to go kill some cops. It's because that's how it works. Did you know that... should we look up how many pizza delivery people get killed and what demographic that is?
More pizza delivery people get killed on the job than police officers.
Per capita.
Did you all know that? Per capita. That's the important part.
Yeah. It's a more dangerous job. Anyway,
police officers aren't in the top 10 most dangerous professions in terms of mortality, in case you're wondering.
And mortality, wait, what about morbidity? I don't know what the morbidity is.
What's the difference between mortality and morbidity?
Mortality is death. Morbidity is severe injury.
Okay.
Football is higher. So per capita. Anyway, we're still talking about black crime and murders and everything like that. Oh, look, we're talking about more murders. Isn't that strange? We're not talking about anything else but murders. Okay, what about nonviolent drug offenses? Are we going to bring up nonviolent drug offenses? Probably not, Libertarian Dave. But we are going to talk about black offenders committed 52% of homicides in America between 1980 and 2008. Why? Interesting. Okay, so why do homicides occur? We want to talk about homicides just in general, just general homicide. There's a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason, the biggest number one reason that homicides occur is population density. Turns out we don't like each other. Population density is a bad thing. Now, the multiplier here is poverty. Uh-oh. Another multiplier within that, okay, within poverty is going to be crime. And what's the number one crime? Drugs. And what's the number one thing you gotta have for drugs? You gotta have fucking guns and shit for your protection if you're illegal drugs. It's almost like if we legalized drugs, a lot of this would be solved. Anyway, so 93% of black, and this is the thing where he fucks up. Which, I mean, he's already fucked up a million times. But we don't live in a segregated society. But listen to this statistic and tell me why. Tell me why you believe that, Dave. Here we go. 93% of black victims were killed by other African Americans, while 84% of white victims were killed by other Caucasians. Why would that be?
It's because even though by law we aren't segregated, communities are often majority one race, either white or black. People tend to kill more often within their racial group.
Surprise.
Because people spend the most time around their own racial group in the United States.
Fucking surprise. Wow. Well, that's... What do you think? There's just this beautiful, non-segregated word. Like, Dave Rubin knows, like the blank side of town exists, right? In every community. Like, oh, well, that's where all the white people live. That's where the Asian community is. That's where the black community is. That's where the Mexican community is. Right? Like, this is like common American knowledge. If you are an American and you live anywhere near a city and you're familiar with that city, you know where the demographic breakdowns probably are. Like, we live in a segregated city. But the portion of the city that Hannah and I live in is pretty integrated because we're right on the border. We're right on the border. That way, white part. That way, black part. Us, middle. So, of course, you're going to get some bleed through on the other side. Isn't that interesting? Very strange. So.
Oh, this next one bugs me because it's another one that completely ignores per capita.
Oh!
Let me read this.
Darwin, hey, that's for me, not for you. No. Only I get to make that noise. Come here. No, I was barking, not you.
He goes on to say, more white children live in poverty than any other race. Data from the National Center for the Children in Poverty placed America's 13 million poor kids into the following categories. 4.2 million Caucasians, 4 million are Latino, 3.6 million are African American, and 400,000 are Asian. Another 200,000 are American Indian.
Okay, stop.
Sure, this might...
Stop.
Yep.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
White people are the vast majority of the population of the United States. So if there are 4.2 million white kids in poverty,
there's only 600,000,
and there are 3.6 million African Americans.
600,000
millions and millions more white people.
600,000 more white kids. That's it. 600,000 more white kids are impoverished than black kids.
It means you're much more likely to be impoverished if you're black in America.
His own statistics!
You cannot tell me that these people don't know what per capita means because they use it when it works in an argument in their favor. They are intentionally obfuscating the facts and using statistics in a misleading way as to make their dumb audience think that racism doesn't affect people. Makes them think that different communities in this country makes them think that they aren't treated differently or don't deal with different material factors based upon the color of their skin. Not because there's any inherent difference between people based on the color of their skin, but because society puts people in different positions because of that perceived difference. It's ridiculous.
Amazing. This is, by the way, the next thing I'm about to read is Dave Rubin insisting systemic racism isn't a thing. This is a quote, nearly half of all black men who died in 2015 in age group 15 to 24 died from homicide. In comparison, white men in the same age group died from homicide at a rate of approximately 8%. Their most likely cause of death, unintended injuries from car accidents. This is according to the CDC. It's almost like white people on average will encounter less volatile living situations if they live in America. Why is that? A myriad of reasons that we've already gone towards, but really the basics are familial wealth, poverty, crime, right? And they feed into each other. If you don't have familial wealth, you're likely in poverty, and then you likely have to turn to crime. If you have to turn to crime, then you're going to live in a more violent neighborhood. I mean, this is just all it is. Just all there is to it. It's systemic. This is Systemics 101. This is how you determine whether things are systemic. The opposite of the coin here. If you deny systemic racism, Dave, then you have to go on record and say, I think black people are just more prone to violence. And there's no study that bears that out. None. Anyway, his last thing he says here is the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate now have 160 lawmakers who are non-white, which means that we have defeated racism.
I like that in this particular instance, he also had to group every non-white racial division into one group just so we could get to 116. Oh, I can't just say black because there's not that many, and I can't really just say Latino because there's not that many either, or whatever. East Asian, whatever. I'll just say all non-white. It's 116.
So in the whole country, we have 116 people that are non-white with political power at the federal level. That's his argument for beating racism. What? This isn't a good argument. Anyway, so
by the way, there are 535 total members of Congress.
Well, yeah.
So like a fifth.
So
a fifth of them are non-white, even though more than a fifth of the United States population is non-white. For the record.
And I mean, you're not even breaking it down into further demographic groups. Like,
no.
I think we have 2 openly trans members. We have like 5 openly non-religious. We have maybe a dozen openly non-heterosexual. Like, it's not a lot of people that are. We don't have our demographics are not represented, and that's all that we really need to make sure that we have equitable voices in a representative government style like this. And now I understand that like there's going to be reasons why that's not always 1-to-1, and that's totally fine. But we should be able to get pretty close. I have a feeling that in the next 20 years we're going to get relatively close to this because sure. Things are getting better, and people on the left, and only people on the left, are working to enfranchise people as far as their voting. Just look at how Georgia turned out. 800,000 more people were able to vote in Georgia, the majority of which were black individuals. So of course, you're going to get a situation where they vote against Republicans, because I mean, like, what Republican is doing things for the black community. And now
I would give it the reason, and Republicans, but why do black people vote for Democrats? Maybe because every time racial issues are ever brought up, you guys can't go 5 seconds without 1350ing and trying to talk about crime statistics as if it, like, I can't with these people.
Yeah. And it's something like I forget what the number is, but it's I believe it was like 2 million people turned 18 this year. No, I'm sorry. 7 million people turned 18 within the last 365 days. And most of those people are leftists.
At least left-leaning. Sure.
Well, the Zoomers are very, very leftist. But yeah,
sure. Some of them are like, I'd imagine at least some are John Doyle-esque, but...
Well, sure, but I mean, he's not very popular among his own age group. And he's the least,
I hope that's
he's the least popular guy at his own Subway. So, I mean, but yeah, about 7 million kids turned 18.
Baja Blast has a friend whose sister went to school with John Doyle.
I need to meet this person. I need to get as close as I can to John Doyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to he needs to be my sandwich artist at some point. But yeah, so I mean, every year we're becoming more and more, progressive or left leaning, and that's just how history kind of works. Like, we're gonna have hiccups like the Donald Trump years every once in a while. And this kind of happens cyclically every time you have this I guess you could call it a major political zeitgeist shift, even though it's not really that major. It is for America, I suppose. But as people start to become more aware of the fact that they're being fucked, and especially like our generation, where we came out of school into a terrible market and got very disillusioned. A lot of people got very disillusioned very quickly. And so I think that's a good thing. Our suffering will lead to, hopefully, a more conscious sort of society as we move forward. And it doesn't always work like that, and that's not always like super ideal or anything. And I wish we wouldn't have to learn the way we have to learn that, but that's just the way it is. So Dave Rubin doesn't understand systemic issues at all. His own statistics bear that out. It doesn't sound like he thought about this for more than 5 minutes.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so I don't know what else to add. I think that's a pretty short chapter. The next one is what?
The next one?
It's like,
oh, no. The next one's the war on women.
Good.
The one after that, hold on. How short is the one after that? We might have to do a twofer because the two are going to tie into each other, and the one after that is like 2 paragraphs.
Oh, nice.
It's the war on women, and the one after that is the wage gap.
Oh, good. I too want to travel back to 2014. This is going to be a good time. We're still going to get monetized, so that'll be nice. Anyway, the good old days. So, thanks for hanging out with us while we talk about Dave Rubin. We got more for you. We also got some Bible study happening. What are we doing this week on the at the end of the week? What are we doing Friday? We're doing a Chick Tract?
Chick Tract? I think a Chick Tract. It's been a while.
That was almost sing-songy for a second. I thought you were singing it. Chick Tract. If you were going to sing it, what would it sound like?
I don't sing, so...
I don't sing. I'm a loveless husk. Chick Tract is the chickiest track of all. The chickiest track. We haven't picked it yet, but I imagine when Hannah sends it to me, it'll be the one on the front page.
You know what? There's a reason that happens. It's believe it or not, and I am a very lazy person. It's not laziness. It's that I've looked through the entire catalog, and I've already picked the really good ones from the catalog. So
Well,
no. The last one we did, Snowflake, is still the one on the front page anyway. So I'm gonna have to go deep diving. I'm gonna have to spend like 3 hours looking at terrible Chick Tract.
Have they not been putting new ones out every month now?
No.
Oh, COVID has hit David W. Daniels real hard. He likes that I remembered his name. I'm still looking for the Hannah and Jake tract. That's got to happen. It's got to happen. If
it was going to happen, it would have happened at our peak. It would have happened like 4 years ago.
You think so?
We peaked long ago, friend. It's all downhill from here.
Well, I'm making more money than I was back then.
Oh, sure. But I'm talking in terms of the Chick Tract stuff.
Oh, I guess. Maybe, yeah. So, if you want to, come hang out with us on Twitch, where we do live content. We'll be able to talk to you in real time, forge a parasocial relationship, and then we'll have to rip the Band-Aid off with reality when you realize we're not actually friends IRL. But before then, you can have a good time in our communities. Twitch.tv/ActualJake, Twitch.tv/HannahReloaded. I wear corn. She wears tinfoil. It'll be a good time. And we also have YouTube channels if you're just unwilling to support us.
Links to all that in the description.
If you're just like, you know what? I don't love you enough to click a button. Then that's fine. You know what? I don't love you enough to... No, I still put it on YouTube. I love you enough. I love you enough. Tell you what, this is a one-way relationship. It's one way. We're putting all the love out, okay? And then you're just suckling us for like content vampires. Put more content out. If you want to send us presents, send them to the P.O. Box. P.O. Box 6544, Saginaw, Michigan 48603. Did I get it?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
All right, let me check. What was it?
It's always the zip code that throws me off.
something. I don't know. 48603. 48603. I nailed it. So P.O. Box 6544, Saginaw, Michigan 48603. We'll open stuff. We'll do it. We'll do a whole thing. It'll be nice.
Okay.
Come around. Anyway, that's the end of it. Got anything else to say? I like your sweater.
Thank you. It's a Deadpool sweater.
What was that last noise? Thank you, it's a Deadpool sweater. Look, I said I liked it.
I just every moment is pain. Every day.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, okay.
No, it's fine. That's, yeah.
You know what's funny? My neighbor took down his Trump sign. Anyway, I love your faces. Have a good whatever it is for you. Whatever it is, I hope it's good. Eat some soup.